Okay, let's just get right into it. We have all had this moment. You hear a recording of your own voice and, you just cringe. It's this universal, kind of painful feeling, right? So why is it that the voice we hear on a recording sounds so completely and totally wrong? Let's break it down.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're recording a quick voice note, maybe leaving a voicemail, and you try to sound, confident, maybe a little deeper, more resonant. You think you sound one way, but then you hit that play button. And who is that? It's some stranger with a voice that's way higher pitched than you could have ever imagined.
So that's really the big question we're going to unpack here. Why does our own voice sound so different? And let's just be honest, why does it so often sound kind of bad to us on a recording? Well, the answer is this really fascinating mix of straight-up physics and psychology. Now, here's the first thing you really got to wrap your head around, and it's a big one. The voice that you hear inside your own head when you talk, yeah, that's not the voice that everybody else hears.
Now really, think about that. It's a totally exclusive experience. That sound inside your skull is a special audio mix created for an audience of one, you. This is so common and so jarring for people that a lot of creators will literally hire professional narrators or even use AI voices just so they don't have to listen to themselves talk.
So how in the world is this private audio mix even created? To get that, we've got to look at the basic science of how sound works. It all starts with the simple mechanics of how we speak.
It's actually a pretty straightforward process, right? Your lungs push air up, it goes through your vocal cords, which causes them to vibrate, and boom. Those vibrations create the raw sound that we turn into words. Easy enough.
But here is where it gets really interesting. The moment that sound is created, your brain gets the signal through two totally different pathways at the exact same time. This one fact is the key to understanding everything.
So the first way is called air conduction. That's how we hear pretty much everything else in the world. Sound travels through the air to your eardrum. But when you speak, a second secret pathway kicks in, bone conduction. This is where the vibrations from your vocal cords travel directly through the solid bones of your skull and jaw right into your inner ear.
And this slide lays it out perfectly. The internal voice you're so used to, that's a combo deal. It's air conduction plus bone conduction. Your own skull basically acts like a built-in subwoofer, amplifying all the lower frequencies and making your voice sound deeper and richer to you. But a microphone, it can only pick up the sound traveling through the air. It's completely deaf to that internal bass boost from your bones. So the playback is missing a huge piece of the puzzle, which is why it sounds higher pitched. It's thinner, sure, but it's also a much more accurate version of how the rest of the world actually hears you.
Exactly. That deep, full, resonant voice you hear all day long, that's a private show. It's a biological special effect, and you're the only one with a ticket. When you hear a recording, you're hearing your voice raw, without its internal backup singers, for the first time, every single time.
So, we've got the physics down, but that only explains why the voices are different. It doesn't really explain why we actively dislike the recorded one so much. For that piece of the puzzle, we have to move from the skull into the mind.
I mean, it's a fair question, right? If that recording is the real you, the one everybody else hears and is totally fine with, why does it make us want to crawl out of our skin? Well, the answer lies in a really simple psychological idea. It's called the mere exposure effect. And put simply, it just means we like what we know. Our brains are hardwired to prefer things that are familiar. Faces, songs, and yep, you guessed it, sounds. The more we're exposed to something, the more we tend to like it. It feels safe. It feels right.
And that is the absolute key. You hear your internal bone-boosted voice every single time you talk, all day, every day of your life. You are deeply, intimately familiar with it. But your recorded voice, that's a stranger. And when your brain hears that unfamiliar sound, it basically says, whoa, hold on, that's not the one I know, that's not right, I don't like it. So this mismatch, it creates this genuine feeling of unease. Because the voice feels foreign, our brain goes on high alert and becomes our own worst critic. All of a sudden, we zoom in on every little crack, every awkward pause, every and We blow these things way out of proportion and assume everyone else hears them just as loudly. But here's the truth, they don't. To them, that's just your voice. It's familiar, it's you.
Okay, so we get the why now, but what can we actually do about it? Well, thankfully, we can steal a few tricks from the people who have to listen to their own voices for a living.
Believe it or not, professional singers, broadcasters, podcasters, voice actors, they all go through this exact same thing. They have to get over that initial cringe factor to be able to do their jobs. And the way they do it is basically a kind of exposure therapy.
So here's their playbook. First, they just record and listen to themselves, over and over and over again. It sounds simple, but it's all about building that familiarity to get past the mere exposure effect. Second, they practice controlling their voice, their pace, their breathing. And third, and this is a big one, they use good gear.
And this is such a crucial point. Look, the little microphone on your phone or your laptop, it's not designed for high-fidelity audio. A cheap mic can add weird digital noise or just cut out entire frequencies, making your voice sound way tinnier and more distorted than it actually is. Sometimes, just upgrading your mic can be a total game changer.
This quote just sums up the whole journey perfectly. The process isn't about learning to like some strange voice. It's about closing that gap between what you think you sound like and what you actually sound like, until that recording is no longer a stranger. It's just you.
And that's really the big takeaway. The solution here isn't about hiring a vocal coach to try and change your sound. It's about recalibrating your brain. It's about training yourself through exposure to finally accept that the voice the whole rest of the world hears is your own.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. For anyone out there who's put off starting that podcast or making that video or even just sending a voice message because of that cringe, what could you share with the world? What could you create if you are no longer afraid of the sound of your own voice?